So again, welcome. Today's webinar is hosted by DBHR through the Washington State Healthcare Authority, and it's an interactive training, and we really encourage you to ask questions, raise your hand or unmute your mic, and really participate throughout the session. I will ask if everyone could just be mindful that their mics are on mute, and if you can all just kind of check that now, that would be great. So a little bit of housekeeping, just a brief note about artificial intelligence. We do want to make a note that the use of automated note-taking bots or similar tools during the Washington FCS events or meetings does require prior approval, and any unauthorized use of such tools is prohibited to ensure the privacy and confidentiality of all attendees. Also, any recording that is created through AI isn't recognized as an official recording of this session, and we do reserve the right to exit trainees from the training if they are using AI to take notes without prior approval or using AI to record the session. So I did pop in the chat a PDF of today's presentation. I'll pop it in again for those who are joining, and I'll pop it in one more time towards the middle end just to make sure people who may be joining late can get access to it. They are no longer emailed out after the session. However, if you have any questions, you can certainly email me. I'll put my email in the chat towards the end. If you have resources that you might need to get, I can assist you with those. But we do record the session, and all of those recordings are available on the HCA FCS channel, which is linked here. And there, give it a couple of weeks after the session, you'll see it linked. So let's get into our content today. It's financial wellness, a vital component of career services conversations. Financial wellness has a significant impact on overall quality of life. And in this session, we're going to explore this domain of financial wellness, one of the 8 dimensions of wellness that Peggy Swarbrick's 8-dimension of wellness model, which has been adapted by SAMHSA, identifies. And for many individuals, increasing financial well-being does go hand in hand with attaining desired roles as a worker or a student. So we'll explore today the impact of financial wellness on all other wellness domains, and provide some tools and resources that will be useful to you in having conversations with job seekers and others that you're working with around building skills for financial wellness. My name is Joni Dolce, and I am an assistant professor with the Department of Psychiatric Rehabilitation and Counseling Professions. I work with the Integrated Employment Institute, where we are based in New Jersey, but as you can see, we do work outside of New Jersey as well. And our goals are to improve and expand employment opportunities and education opportunities for individuals with mental health conditions. And we do that a variety of different ways through webinars like this, through implementation coaching, and all types of supports around that. So today's learning objectives, we're going to define financial wellness, kind of looking at that in the broader scheme of wellness in general, identify skills in developing financial wellness, and understand and effectively utilize available resources in promoting financial wellness. My gracious colleague, Jill Valiant, has been generous enough to let me use and adapt the materials that she has developed for this webinar. So I appreciate that. So before we get into it, let's have a little icebreaker or a warm up. We need a warm up here in New Jersey. It's very chilly, but think about, what does financial wellness mean to you? And you can unmute your mic or use the chat, and we'll read off some of the responses. But let's talk about sort of defining what financial wellness means. And it's important when we are working with individuals, when we're, kind of looking at all of these areas of wellness, to really have a discussion around defining it. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to the person you're working with? So would love to hear in the chat some of those meanings, and it could be one word, couple of words. Someone is writing not having to panic about bills, having a roof over your head, food on the table, having a sense of stability, security. So some similarities among the responses: spending responsibly, emergency fund, the capacity to take on new opportunities, not feeling buried, having a plan, financial security that secures all the living needs, feeling like you're making choices about your money, your financial situation isn't making choices for you. Future planning, having enough to pay bills and a bit extra for unexpected expenses. Thank you. Yes. So, as you all can see in the chat, we define it very differently. But there are some common themes, right? Security, stability, having enough to pay bills. There are also some mentions in the chat around having a bit extra for unexpected needs, or having some plans in place. So it's important when we're thinking about financial wellness, really helping the person define what does that mean. And as we're going through some of the content today, you can be thinking about how this might be useful and how you would be able to incorporate this in the work that you do. You could also kind of use yourself as, sort of kind of as we're going through it, thinking about your own experiences, whatever works best for you. But in your mind, think about, how is this something that I can translate in the work that I do? So today we're going to use this definition of wellness. Peggy Swarbrick defined this. You can hyperlink right into Dr. Swarbrick's work on this. And when we talk about wellness in general, we're going to use this definition as our framework. And so please keep this in mind as we navigate through our time together this morning. So wellness is a conscious, deliberate process that requires a person to become aware of and make choices for a more satisfying lifestyle. And we'll get into a little bit more about how financial wellness is included in this. So let's look at the 8 dimensions of wellness. Maybe I can see a show of hands or thumbs up if people are familiar with the 8 domains of wellness. Yep, it looks like I'm seeing some thumbs up there on the panel. Great. Um, Again, this is adapted from what Dr. Swarbrick has written about. Her reference is listed here if you wanted to see, sort of the research and her paper describing wellness. But let's go around a bit to look at the 8 dimensions. Emotional wellness, coping effectively with life and creating satisfying relationships, financial wellness, satisfaction with current and future financial situations, and we'll dig into that a little bit more today. Social wellness, developing that sense of connection and belonging and kind of having that support system. Spiritual wellness includes that sense of purpose and meaning in life. Occupational, that personal satisfaction that we get from our work. Physical wellness, recognizing the need for physical activity, diet, nutrition, sleep, and so on. Intellectual wellness, those creative abilities, and recognizing that what those creative abilities are, and identifying different ways to maybe expand on your knowledge and skills. And then finally, environmental wellness, where we're really looking at good health by, you know, being part of stimulating environments, pleasant environments that really support our well-being. So if we were to think about the eight dimensions of wellness, how how do you see financial wellness possibly impacting some of these other areas of wellness? How does our, or vice versa, how do some of the other areas of wellness impact one's financial wellness? You can see they're all sort of interconnected here, and each impacts one another. So how might some of the other areas of wellness influence someone's financial wellness?
If you're feeling emotionally happy and stable, then you're less likely to spend spontaneously. You'll
Yes,
think about your purchases before you get rid of all your money.
yes, thank you, Kristen. That's a great example. You know, if we're feeling emotionally regulated, we might, like Kristen mentioned, be less inclined to make impulse purchases or um, not think about what those purchases are. Let's see. Someone's mentioning if there's a lot of financial stress, that stress impacts almost every single one. It's hard to sleep, could lead to depression, maybe dissatisfied with work if you're not making enough money. Yes. They all seem to be very intertwined, and finances can give you access or take away access to the other areas of wellness. Yes, I absolutely agree with that, particularly coming from my background and many of you, if you know, if you're here from an employment and education program, you know, we really know the benefits of that, right? Having a job, having you know, financial wellness does give us access to some of these other areas, right? We are able to maybe identify environments that are more stimulating and support our well-being, or we're able to identify opportunities to improve our intellectual wellness, right? Like, you know, going back to school or taking classes. Someone writes, you have more choice in how you participate in other various wellness areas if you have funds to spend to support them. Yes. And again, as we're going through, think about how you might use this visual and discussion around overall wellness and the eight dimensions with someone you're working with. If you're working with someone on improving their financial wellness, how might you help them really see how that affects the other areas of wellness? Thank you. Great participation. So first, excuse me. First, what do you think of when you hear the phrase social determinants of health? You can use the chat or unmute your mic. So if we're going to kind of tie in some of the social determinants of health with this real critical need to address financial wellness. But first, what do you think of when you hear social determinants of health? You can use the chat or unmute.
I'll say one that hits closest to home. Um, if you have if you have disabilities or if a family member has disabilities, it already cuts you off from quite a bit. You're not even allowed to have a certain amount of money in your account.
Mhm.
So it also restricts your access to quite a few things.
Thank you, Kristen. Yes, so it may restrict your opportunities to save and have a you know an adequate amount of money in your savings account. Absolutely. Let's see. We have something here in the chat. Um, Areas, abilities, resources that set you up for success or hardship, both currently and in early life. Absolutely. So we're really talking about those non-medical factors that really influence health outcomes, just like was mentioned by Kristen in the chat. There are the conditions in which people are born, grow, work, live, and age, and the wider set of forces and systems that really shape the conditions of daily life. That's through the World Health Organization. And from the WHO website, they also mention that social determinants of health can impact everyone both positively and negatively, right? So there may be some positives to the social determinants of health, and then as mentioned in the chat, those negative aspects as well. And research shows that the social determinants can be more important than healthcare or even lifestyle choices in influencing someone's health. For example, there's have been numerous studies that suggest that social determinants of health account for between 30 to 55% of health outcomes, according to the World Health Organization. So there's a big, this is a critical piece that we want to be mindful of and pay attention to. And you can click into the hyperlink and access the WHO information through that. So some examples of social determinants of health. And as we are taking a look at these examples, let's talk about how these relate to impact of roles as worker or student. So how might each of these impact or relate to someone's role as a worker or student? So let's think about the interaction between these and the dimensions of wellness as we move through. So income and social protection, education. So if we're thinking about in our roles as job coaches, employment specialists, vocational counselors, think about how these social determinants of health can impact someone's access or entry into employment and education programs. Unemployment and job insecurity, working life conditions, food insecurity, housing and basic amenities in the environment, early childhood development, social inclusion and non-discrimination, structural conflict, and access to affordable health and services of decent quality. Economic stability of primary importance in the development of other social determinants of health factors really can impact so many other areas. So being economically stable has an impact on someone's housing, someone's education, someone's access to food and community health care. Individuals with serious mental health conditions are oftentimes at higher risk for decreased life expectancy and this decreased health outcomes or access and an increased rate of poverty. So some positively impacting outcomes in employment and education can really have a ripple effect into other elements or factors of social determinants of health. So as we move through our discussion regarding the dimensions of wellness, think about how the dimensions interact or impact one another and how focusing on increasing wellness in those 8 domains can really positively impact the social determinants of health. So financial wellness involves learning how to manage expenses, but also, as we saw in the chat from your responses, wellness in this area also does mean considering spending and saving habits. So we saw in the chat, people were identifying being able to spend on certain things or save for certain um, things in their life. So if we think about financial wellness, what skills are involved? What what's involved with financial wellness? What skills are needed? Okay. You could use the chat or unmute. Organization skills. Yes, basic math and honesty around habits. I love that, Jennifer. You're absolutely right. Kind of really being able to be self-reflective and be honest about what those spending habits might be. Ability to keep track of income and expenses. Yes, so some real concrete, tangible skills are needed. Ability to prioritize. Absolutely. And think about as we discuss what those skills are, identify whether you currently feel that you have the skills needed to help others develop these skills in their to promote their own financial well-being. So we've got direct knowledge of budgeting, maintaining an organized check-ins, self-control, inhibition. So as we're kind of thinking about the skills that are needed for financial wellness, and I'll just repeat what's in the chat here. Knowledge of budgeting, maintaining organized check-ins and self-control, ability to prioritize, keep track of income, having basic math and and also being honest around habits, being organized. If you were to think about those skills, how do you feel, um, identify whether you currently feel that you have the skills needed to help others develop these skills to promote their own well-being in the financial wellness domain. And if you're comfortable sharing that in the chat, super. Um, if it's something that you want to just kind of hold on to privately, to think about whether you have the skills to support someone with budgeting, to support someone with kind of having an honesty around spending habits, support someone around maintaining a checking account and, um, a savings account. Do you have those skills? And if if you feel like you don't, what, if anything, can you identify that would help you to feel prepared to support the financial wellness of people that you're working with? So someone mentioned, I feel like I have the skills, but I sometimes don't use them. So, let's spend just a minute or so reflecting on this, and you can jot them down kind of personally. If you wanted to use the chat or even talk as a group, that would be fine too. But I really want you to think about whether you feel that you have those skills to help others. And more importantly, what, if anything, can you think of that would help you feel prepared to support the financial wellness of people that you're working with? I'll just wait another 30 seconds or so. Practice what you preach. Yes, Marie, I feel the same. As I was, looking through and preparing this, I was thinking lots of things in here that um, I would need to improve in my practice as well. So yes, kind of practicing what you preach, really being mindful about our own habits and our own um, financial wellness. So let's look a little bit more about what those financial skills are. So it sounds like many of you already identified what some of those financial skills are. Um, Budgeting, organization skills. Um, but let's look and see. So money management. And as we're going through, think about how do you maintain your own financial wellness? What do you need to do or understand in order to be financially well? And again, depending on your comfort level, please feel free to share in the chat or unmute your mic. Um, but really kind of using this as almost a parallel process, kind of thinking about your own experiences and then kind of how you might be able to support individuals that you're working with around their financial wellness. So think about, how do you maintain your own financial wellness? Do you do some sort of money management? Do you have a budget? Do you maintain that budget? Are you saving? Are you doing some sort of banking, checking account, savings account, other types of banking? Do you have any sort of credit and debt management resources that you might use? So think about, how do you maintain your own financial wellness, and what do you need to do or understand in order to be financially well? I know for me, I have to, in order to maintain my financial wellness, I need to really have a clear idea of where the money is going and what it's being used for. So budget is really important to me, and identifying and organizing, kind of each bill and when and the dates that it needs to be paid, and really making sure, I'm kind of looking at that budget pretty regularly to see what I'm working with. What are some other skills that might not be listed here? What do we mean by money management? What does that mean? How would you describe that to someone you're working with? Investing, yes. Executive functioning skills, absolutely. Being able to prioritize, being able to have some organization skills, yes. Reflecting on habits, yes. I do a lot of thrifting, and almost to the point where, I'm saving significant amounts of money, but maybe being overrun by items that I don't necessarily need at the moment. So, I mean, that's a reflection that I need to continuously make on my habits. Maybe it's, something at a very reasonable price, but do I need it? No. And kind of going back to what we talked about, how financial wellness correlates to all of the other areas of wellness, maybe emotionally, that feels like something, I need at the moment. Maybe it's helping me in some way, or I think it's helping me in some way. But I have to reflect on that and say, well, what else can I do that doesn't even, even if it's a reasonable amount of money, it's something low cost. Yes, Jean.
No, I didn't have a question. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay. I'm sorry. I saw that you were unmuted. Did someone else have a question or want to speak? Okay. So Pandemic created a toolkit, and I'll share that in just a bit. And she writes about financial wellness, and kind of these couple of quotes really illustrate it nicely. Financial wellness refers to things you can count or measure about your own personal financial situation, including things like the size of your income, how much debt you have, and your credit rating. It also refers to the ways you feel about money, your opinions, and your beliefs. So it's not just sort of the things that are like tangible and that you can counter measure, but how do you feel? What are your opinions about money? For example, some people feel discouraged and overwhelmed when they have a big expense that they can't afford. Other times, people may feel happy and optimistic that they saved up enough money to do something special. So, thinking about financial wellness in both of these different categories, kind of that count or measure of our own financial situation, income, debt, credit rating and so on, but also our beliefs about money, how we feel about money, and so on is all part of that wellness. I'm just looking here in the chat. Um, Allison mentions, I ask folks about their values and priorities. What are things they care about? What do they want to economize on? Absolutely. So having those discussion with people about what their values are, what they want to prioritize. Pandemic also talks about financial capabilities in the sense of having financial control, making your own financial decisions. That's all part of financial wellness, helping people to be able to have that financial control and learn the skills to make sound and their own autonomous financial decisions. Having financial stability, meaning having enough income to meet your needs, pay your debts, build assets. So that's another part of financial wellness. And then finally, financial security, saving money and planning for your financial future. So thinking about these areas of capabilities and how we can help someone in these three areas. And the resource I'm going to show that Patnemic has created kind of goes into a little bit more detail and some more context about these capabilities. SAMHSA also has a guide, Creating a Healthier Life, a step-by-step guide to wellness. It's hyperlinked here, and they talk about all of the dimensions of wellness, and they have a section on improving financial wellness. And I thought it was sort of a nice way to visualize how we might be able to present this. I just want to mention here, see that here in the chat, that understanding the limits of bandwidth for finances and learning how to build it. Yes, thank you. So in the resource, which I'll share at the end, kind of ish, some of the different resources that are available and kind of go through them a little bit. But in this resource, they have a table that goes into 4 or 5 different areas to work on to improve financial wellness. And one of the areas is work, and they give some questions here to help the person and help you think about how to improve that area. So, thinking about how does your domain of financial wellness impact your life? So some questions related to that. How is it related to your wellness? So these are kind of questions and ways to really begin working with someone to have them begin considering the impact of financial wellness in other areas. When we're meeting with individuals, work comes to mind as one of the largest areas to improve financial wellness. Um, and thinking about, does your current job allow you to meet your obligations and have resources to do things you enjoy? So thinking about, is the person's current job giving them the financial freedom or meeting their needs that they are interested in, or is there a discussion that needs to be had regarding career advancement? Maybe or identifying ways to request a salary increase or promotion or whatever that might look like. Are you currently in a field that you're passionate about or do well? Or are you looking at doing something differently, perhaps more personally gratifying? Are you looking for paid or volunteer work? So helping the person really look at and think about that area of work for improving wellness. You can help the person identify, different ways that they can explore job sites like Indeed, Recruiters, other ones. The hyperlink resource here includes resources for job seekers through Washington's Division of Social and Health Services. What are some other ways if someone is considering improving their financial wellness and wanted to focus on the area of work to do that? What are some other resources that people might be able to access to improve their work domain? What can you do to support someone in securing work or advancing in their career? What are some strategies and resources that you might be able to do or provide? Let's see, you can use the chat. LinkedIn and teaching networking skills, yes. So maybe help the person establish a profile on LinkedIn, help the person learn how to network or who to network with, or building that social capital. Using online tools like ONET to help focus the job search, yes. So lots of different resources that you can help someone really improve that area of work to enhance financial wellness. Maybe help someone update their resume, um, and have them, promptly submit it if they see an opportunity. And if you click on the resources for job seekers that are listed here, lots of different other tools and resources in your area. Referrals to employment agencies like WorkSource and Goodwill. Yes, so referring to different employment services. Another area to improve financial wellness is a checking and saving account, having a checking account and a savings account. Um, and in the SAMHSA toolkit that I referenced, they identify different things like asking questions around having, do you balance your checkbook often enough? Do you ensure that you're not overextending yourself? Are your savings in line with what goals you have in life? Like someone mentioned in the chat, helping someone prioritize what's important to them, home ownership, retirement, taking a vacation, going out to dinner once every 2 weeks, whatever that might be, that someone's saving for. Going back to school, having money for transportation, whatever those expenses look like for the person. Does the person have a weekly or monthly budget so that they can plan for expenses such as rent and groceries and maybe have a little over to enjoy? So the resources might be helping the person ask the bank about the different types of accounts that might be available, checking accounts and savings accounts. Um, so you're using those accounts to your advantage and getting the most interest that you can that's available. Find out if the bank has different tools to help you keep track of your money. And if someone's receiving any disability benefits, there may be limits on how much can be saved without affecting benefits. And I linked the new Red Book, which is the Social Security Work Incentives
Yes.
Web Book.
To the place
Akoya,
Enjoy. To meet Patty and Alina. Fun.
can everyone please check their
What about
mics to make
Planter? I don't know if you
sure?
like it or not. It's better than.
Banks and credit unions sometimes have educational platforms as well, some gamified to teach about finances. Yes, so kind of using some innovative ways to help someone learn about finances. Any others that you can think of, kind of that fall in line with this idea of kind of using checking and savings accounts to our advantage to improve wellness? And we'll go into the tool in just a bit, and you can see additional areas. So let's think about, how do we support the financial skill building of people that we work with? And some of those are community resources. So what are some community resources that you're familiar with that can support the financial skill building of people that we're working with, that you're working with? What are some of those community resources? We talked a little bit about the bank and kind of identifying, kind of getting the best bang for your buck in terms of interest rates with checking and savings accounts and other banking tools that might be available to help with spending and budgeting. What are some other community resources that you're aware of? As you're thinking, I'll kind of continue, but please use the chat or unmute if you have something to contribute. Would love to hear sort of local resources, but in general, different community colleges might offer free or low cost workshops or trainings or learning opportunities to learn about budgeting or money management. There might be some, YouTube people to follow who might be useful and helpful in terms of money management and different financial wellness. Yes, yep, financial wellness classes offered by various organizations. Yes, OIC, the local banking coalition, churches oftentimes. Victoria mentions our local work source offers classes on financial management. Yes. And then Jennifer had mentioned earlier, but I think it aligns here. Banks and credit unions sometimes offer those educational platforms as well as some gamified opportunities to teach about finances. Yes. Let's see. Financial mentorship initiative through United Way is a free program that will work with clients. This is great to hear from people who are in your communities, your peers here on the call, and certainly, reach out to any of the peers here who might be mentioning some of these resources. But that's great. Financial mentorship through United Way. Thank you for mentioning that. Different natural resources. So family, friends, people who are natural supports in that person's life might be helpful, or they might not be. So that's another conversation to have. Maybe family wouldn't be a very helpful resource for some people. Maybe that would be a hindering resource. So having those discussions of who might be available to help build those financial skills. And certainly if that's something that is within your scope and your comfort, and your skill level, you would also be available to provide some support in supporting financial skill building. In vivo support. So, if you have the opportunity to accompany someone to the bank or accompany someone to one of the learning opportunities that were mentioned and be able to kind of help the person navigate those systems, or maybe sit with the person and do some budgeting and do some work around skill building, or helping someone if it's within your skill set. Look at opening a checking account, or how to, if the person is comfortable with you kind of seeing their financial information, helping them with checking, balancing their checking account and so on. Does that sound feasible? Helping someone with some of those skills, or identifying the resources that could be helpful? What of these three have you tried, or do you think are feasible in terms of supporting someone in building those financial skills? Oh, thank you. Jennifer put in the chat two websites. It looks like the one is Financial Wellness Resources, or maybe it's the same one. But thank you. Yes, excellent. Thank you so much. I'll grab those and also put them on my on my PowerPoint for future sessions. Thank you. So some different financial wellness tools. I'm going to go through some of these. And the first one here is from Patnemic, Building Financial Wellness. So I'm going to pop out of our PowerPoint, and if someone could just give me a heads up that they can see curriculum. Someone give it up. Yep, good. Thank you, John. So here is a curriculum developed by Patnemic, and it's here in the PowerPoint hyperlinked. So it goes into a little bit about what the curriculum is, and then who can use it, what does it, how does it work, and so on. So it kind of goes through the different pieces of the actual curriculum and the resources and experience needed. So I would certainly encourage you to access any of these resources. They provide a podcast as well as a brief webinar, and then you could request some additional assistance if necessary. And then let's see, let's go into share some other information. Okay. So some different budgeting templates. I also have those in the chat. I will send those along. Let me just grab those from chat. They're in the chat as well, but different budgeting templates that could be helpful. So the Microsoft Office template, there's a budgeting form through the FTC. NerdWallet has an online budgeting resource that could also be helpful. And then tools for wellness, self-assessment, and planning. So creating a healthier life, a step-by-step guide to wellness. This is the SAMHSA resource. I'll share that. So it is a pretty comprehensive resource, and it goes through each of the domains of wellness. So this is what we just talked about. And I'll go through pretty quickly so you can see the financial wellness piece. Let me go through to that. So has each section talks about ways to improve that area of wellness, and they give some suggestions, the area and things to think about, and then the resources. Some of the resources might need to be checked for accuracy. Just anytime there's an online resource, you want to make sure that it is the most updated. So here's the piece on financial wellness, and we looked at those first two areas just a bit ago. But then they also give some additional areas to focus on to help someone improve their financial wellness. One is debt. So thinking about what would be helpful to figure out your total debt and make a plan to pay it down. Has the person thought about getting help from someone who specializes in money management or personal finance? So if that's something that a person is managing debt, helping them to think about resources that they might use, classifieds, online organizations. If they're working, make sure, or if they're considering a company, make sure that company's credible and so on. And then retirement and other accounts. So have you opened a savings, other kind of account? Give some information about disability and some of the parameters around that. And I actually linked the Social Security Red Book, the new version 2026 in the presentation. So please use that or this number, but this may not be 100% up to date. that piece in this toolkit. But helping someone develop a plan. What will I do? What do I need? So really working with the person to really identify what does the person, what will they do to improve their wellness, and helping them identify those things that they might need. And it might be some of what's above in those earlier sections, or it might be some additional brainstorming that you might have with the person around what might be needed. So that's the piece on financial wellness here. And then let's see, some additional resources. There is an 8 Dimensions of Wellness workbook that Peggy Swarbrick and Jay Udolph created, a Journey to Wellness guide. Look quickly at those. So again, sort of, similar workbook that you can use with someone. You can go through looking at each of their domains. For today's purposes, we're really looking at the financial wellness domain, but again, you can look and see it identifies what are the things I do well for that particular domain, what are things that I often do, and so on. So let's go to the financial piece, since today is centered around that. But as you can see, it's a nice workbook. Let's see. Okay. So again, financial wellness. What are things I do well, my daily routines, and so on. Kind of a little self-assessment that you can help the person check off items. And then things I would like to do. So similar to what we just looked at for the SAMHSA, but maybe a little bit more details. Oh, I'm so sorry. No one's seeing it? Well, that's not. How about now? Give me a little. Thank you. Okay. Phew. Let me just make sure. Let me see it. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So again, yes, this is a toolkit. I scrolled all the way down to the financial wellness piece, but it looks at what someone's strengths are, what they do well, very strengths focused, and then a financial wellness self-assessment where you can, help them check off and things that they would like to do. So very similar to the SAMHSA toolkit that we just looked at. It identifies sort of a plan to help the person identify what they'd like to do, who might help them in that, and make those changes. And then let's move on. Some additional tools found here. And so just an opportunity to kind of look at some of the takeaways we really learned about the financial wellness dimension of the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. We looked at some strategies and some resources to help individuals or yourselves or me really improve that area of wellness around finances. Lots of resources available to to continue your learning in this area. Someone's asking, could you share the downloadable version of the form? I don't, I can share the downloadable version of my PowerPoint. I don't have the downloadable version of that form at the moment. Are you unable to download it? Is it not allowing it to be downloaded? Let me see. I think if you just click into it. Okay, all right. So I see what's happening. So I'll let me do that now. But let's see if there's any questions. And as people are asking questions, I can work on getting those into the chat. So does anyone have a question, or more importantly, how might you use some of these skills or resources with someone that you're working with? All right, I'm going to pop them in the chat. Check to see if they're they should be, you should be able to click into them. I apologize. Maybe the PDF prevented that. But yes, I'm going to also put my email here in the chat. So please reach out if you have additional questions. But I did want to just move into one more activity. Um, Not necessarily an activity, but wanted to share some resources. So the Social Security Red Book, this is the 2026 version, provides an overview of work incentives for individuals. And then also the Washington State Department of Social and Health Services provides some information about how to find a benefit specialist in your area to help you understand how working will affect benefits. And you click right into that. And again, I will share those in the chat just to make sure you have access to those. Okay, there you go. And some additional resources here. I see there's something in the chat. Please complete the survey at your convenience, but let me go back to here in the chat. Someone is asking, I love having paper or digital budgeting options. Sometimes the folks I work with have a cloudy view of finances, and putting things on paper helps solidify concepts. Yes, I agree. Sometimes having that, even for myself on paper, helps me to really see that. What are the best practices for mitigating ethical and professional boundaries while working with finances? Faith, that's a great question. I think, again, a lot of that goes back to what your policies and practices are within your organization. Asking permission to view the finances, getting someone's okay, and that may be a formal okay through your organization, a formal mechanism in place to allow you to assist them or work with them. That I would defer to your supervisor to see what they expect. And ethically, you as if you're helping someone and it's intended to support them, and there's no, you're not using this as an opportunity for any other purpose. God, being guided by your ethics really helps with that too. So a lot of ethics revolve around doing no harm, or doing good for the person, helping the person. So as long as we're using our ethical guidelines for whatever profession we're in as sort of that guidance, and certainly going back to your supervisor and identifying what practices or policies are in place in your organization is a way to manage some of that, those challenges around the ethics and the professional boundaries. So thank you, everyone. It's been a great webinar, and I appreciate everyone's attention and all of the interaction. And I hope that you can think about ways that you will be able to incorporate some of the tools and the resources into the work that you're doing in employment services or housing services. Um, Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you now. Bye.